right, guys. What's up, guys? Welcome to NFD TV Canes all day. If you're rocking with the U, then you know what to do. Hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss out on a video. And today I got my boy Chris from Canes Legacy. Chris, how you living? How you feeling?
Well, I wasn't living too great for a lot of that game, but they survived it and I survived it, so we're doing okay.
What a game. I'm going to start off by saying, and then I want you to let me know if I'm wrong or if I'm right. You know, the biggest takeaway of this game is De'Aaron King and what he means to this team. And I know me and you have talked about what De'Aaron King means to this team, but there's still been a lot of people who says, oh, he's too short. Or the people say, well, he doesn't connect down the field enough. But tonight showed you what he does. And we can talk about the stat line. I don't have it pulled up, but I know several touchdowns, clutch touchdowns, you know, backed up. After committing a penalty, did he let it affect him? No. He throws a nice pass to Mike Hawley. But probably the biggest play was him sliding at the end of the game. And I just want people to realize how the small things matter. And him sliding to solidify the game, I'm like, that's De'Aaron King. Win first. That's my biggest takeaway of tonight. Let me know if that was your biggest takeaway, or do you got another one? And what are your thoughts on De'Aaron King, Chris? Hold up. If you're not signed up with the Patreon squad, aka the Kane Gang, then what are you doing? Get signed up right now. Link in the description and in the pinned comments. And for less than a cup of coffee, you can get the extra content, the exclusive content, the ad-free content, the early access content, the film breakdowns that I can't put on YouTube because YouTube will strike your boy down. Hey, we turning up on the Patreon squad, the Kane Gang. Get over there right now. Link in the description. And if you're already a member of the Kane Gang, I appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of this content. I'm moving my hands, a lot of hand movement.
Well, I thought he played awesome, you know, throughout the game. Like, obviously, like, he missed on a couple of deep throws early, but, you know, that's kind of been the way it goes. He takes him a while to get in rhythm with those deep throws in the course of the game. I thought that later on in the game, once he kind of settled into everything, you could tell him feeling more comfortable. And, you know, honestly, he plays like there's a lot of times he plays like a running back or a receiver or like even like a linebacker where he needs to get hit once or twice to really kind of get into the flow of the game. So there was a couple of times he took some pops on the sideline, you know, once he kind of started getting into the running game a little bit more. And then he got up and he started firing him out there. It kind of woke him up and got him in the right state of mind. And then there was that throw he made over the middle late on the field goal drive to get him within 4, where he took a shot and he delivered a seed right across the middle of the field. And, you know, he might be short, like you said, he might be all this, might be all that, but, you know, he gets the job done and he's a leader. So, I mean, I love having him on the team.
How many wins does Miami have if De'Aaron King does not transfer to Miami?
And I can't imagine anyone else being the quarterback for this team that has been associated with the University of Miami for like 4 or 5 years that would have us near what he has. No, he is that winning mentality that other guys lack. He makes people better. Like, those receivers so easily could have just shut down on themselves, like especially early dropping passes and all. Like, they could have dropped out today. They could have given up last week. They could have given up earlier this season. He stayed confident in them, and I think having him as their leader brought them back into it. He just makes everybody around him better.
Man. Well, I mean, and guys, we're talking to Chris from Canes Legacy. You can check out his content on Twitter, also part of Canes Insight. Chris, when Manny Diaz decided to go for the field goal instead of going for it, what was your initial thoughts?
I thought it was the wrong call. I didn't think it was the right decision. I thought based upon the way the defense was playing, I think you go for the touchdown there because you're still down. Like, you still need to score a touchdown to put yourself in a good position to win the game. I'd rather go for the touchdown there than if you stop them again. I know, like, they stopped them, then they went, you know, they can go for the win and all, but, like, I'm okay not scoring there and leaving them on the 5-yard line and then, you know, trying to stop them again, get a touchdown to tie, that if he has to go to overtime, so be it. But still being down to touchdown, I go for that from the 5, like 10 times out of 10, personally. Obviously, it was crushing to get dropped back, but I always go for it myself.
I agree with you. I was the same way. I thought that, hey, you got about 5 yards to get. Let's get it. But hey, it ends up working out. I just thought that, hey, I got De'Aaron King, who there's no debate about it, was the best player on the field. I have him. I want to prove to my office that I have confidence in him and that he can go for it. Macho Man 79. I get a lot of comments, obviously, because I have the chat going, and people say a lot of different things. But man, he said something that even I've never said before. And I want you to kind of talk about this comment and tell me what you think about it. But he said, and this was with us down. We were down by 10. And he said, at least this team is still fighting. Last year's team would have quit. Do you agree with that statement? And kind of tell me what differences you see in this year's team and last year's team.
Oh, yeah, I agree 100%. I think they would have. And it was a couple times this year, we've talked after the games, and, one of us has said, last year we'd probably lose this game, And I know it's kind of frustrating when, like, we're in situations where every game is last year we would have lost situation. But at the same exact time, like, you have to win the game. And we went out there and, like, we won this game. We could have very easily lost it. We could have very easily let this thing slip away. But we went out there and did what you needed to do on the offensive side. The defense was struggling. There was a point there where I thought the defense was going to quit because they were just getting beat on down the field, and they didn't. They held on. They did what they had to do. And I saw actually someone popped up in the chat. They said 10 yards with 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. The rest of the game, NC State got 10 yards. Like, they needed to do that, and they did it. The offense needed to score 2 times in the last 11 minutes, and they did it. So that's a team that won't quit. And, it'd be great if they put up 60 tonight, but they didn't. They got enough to win. That's what ultimately all matters.
All right, Miami improves to 6-1 on the season. I mean, this game, just personally, would you rather just win a blowout, dominating type of game, or win a game when your team is down, when their back's against the wall, and they fight to victory? Which one would you rather? I mean, which says more about the team?
Well, I mean, either they say different things. I think, if we could have came out on the road on a Friday night with COVID, ravaging the roster and, like, taking away a lot of our depth, especially at the receiver position and linebacker, I think that would have sent a pretty strong tone for the rest of the season. But at the same time, having a game like this where we didn't lose, we did what we needed to do in a bad situation, and obviously a spot where we could have folded. And after some tough seasons with bye weeks, it's where people expected us to fold and we didn't. I think that says a lot too. It just says different things about the constructs of the roster.
So we win this game. We're now 6-1. But this game didn't start off too well. It actually started off very bad. We ended up giving up over 40 points to a team with the backup quarterback. NC State. Throughout the season, people have been saying, get rid of Blake Baker, get rid of Blake Baker. Even though we won this game, there has to be something that's addressed. There has to be something, and this is why I say that. We're seeing the same things happen. DJ Ivey gets beat, and I know he had a game-winning interception, but hey, he still got beat when it counted. Al Blaze gets beat. Zach McCloud's not lined up properly, and a guy gets behind him, and he still has a chance to get the interception. He drops the interception. What I mean is, I could understand keeping a coach if we're seeing improvement, but this defense looks like the same defense from week 1. So my questions to you is, what needs to happen to fix this defense?
Well, I think the problem is that we run like a really basic defense. Like there's nothing that we do. Like we didn't even blitz for the first couple of weeks really consistently. We don't run a lot out of like any sub packages. Like we'll put a nickel in there every once in a while, but for the most part we run out of base. We try to move Gill around a little bit at striker to be kind of like a nickel guy, but honestly, for the most part, he's like really a pure Sam linebacker. As much as we kind of fancy it up and call him a striker, I do think that we need to figure out ways of being a little bit different with what we do, like changing up when we blitz and not being so predictable. Obviously, get rid of all those ridiculous blitzes where he sends someone from like 10 yards deep and expects them to get there on time in a modern passing game where everyone's throwing the ball pretty quick. We have to be just like a little bit more unique at how we try to get to the quarterback, more stunned, more effective, more movement on the defensive line to get those guys into some better positions. Do some stuff with Phillips and Roche and like let them go inside and blitz from a D tackle spot. You know, because last year you had such success with Rousseau moving him on the interior and getting more speed guys down the outside around like next to him because defenses had a key on him so much. Like, why don't we try that and like let a Harvey and a Cam Williams go outside and rush from the end spot, slide him in and slide Phillips in and see what we could do on the interior. You know, I don't think we're doing anything exotic enough to like say, oh, well, this is awful. We got to stop doing that because we just don't really do enough. Once we figure out how to utilize our personnel better, I think we'll be in better shape. But also, like a lot of it is the players. Like, I mean, what do you do with McLeod? Like, he can't really play at a high level.
You hold him accountable for his play.
And I know he can't be on the field, right? Like, that's the only way to do it. And Jennings is almost at that same exact spot where like you can't trust him on the field. But then you're down to Brooks and Flagg as your only two linebackers. Because outside of that, it's Ragone. And he was out there for a couple minutes today, and that was about it. We got him right back out. So we're in bad shape at linebacker. If Huff can't play, then, you know, we're in really bad shape there, you know. So I don't know how you make those guys work when the pieces really aren't the best to have.
If tomorrow the headline was the Miami Hurricanes fire defensive coordinator Blake Baker, what would your reaction would be?
I would say, you know, it was probably something that could make us better, but I would honestly expect the defense next week to look really similar to the defense we saw this week. And like, this is a bad performance by the D, but I mean, like schematically, I think it would look about the same because I don't think Manny did a lot differently than what Baker does. People say, well, he blitzed more, he did this more, he did that more. He didn't blitz a ton. He had a defensive line that was always able to create pressure, so he could send a fifth guy to make a play, or he could stunt a little bit more because you had McIntosh and Norton in the middle. You had Chad Thomas on the outside who could always kind of hold things up. Like, just having those interior rushers gave so much more freedom. Plus, you had two safeties, two legitimate NFL players at the safety position who would rarely make mistakes. You know, so like our whole front, our whole battery of our defense, front to back, was a lot stronger than what we have now. So I think changing a coach and changing a play caller right now, I don't think it would do as much as people would hope.
So I'm hitting you with tough questions, and these are questions that I'm asking you because I go back and forth on. Defensively, does Miami have a coaching problem or a talent problem?
Both. I think it's both. I think that we're not coaching guys up effectively enough to, you know, because these guys have been in the system. Manny's been with these guys at the linebacker spot pretty much their whole careers now, and they still really can't play, which is a bad sign. You got Sam Brooks, he's a fantastic talent, but he's still learning the spot. Flagg is young. He could be a really good player down the line, but he's still young learning it. You know, so like that's a skill problem and it's a coach problem. I think when you bring this recruiting class in next year, you'll have guys that are a little bit more versatile, guys who can play different roles, guys who could be, you know, that elite athlete at the position, which we lack. Because we're also, not only are we like slow to react, we're slow in terms of speed at like foot. So we're all messed up at linebackers. So I don't know what else you can do besides just try to say like, don't mess up too bad, which is basically the formation of our defense right now.
If I was the defensive coordinator of Miami, the first thing I'm doing is I'm I'm starting to Corey Couch. Corey Couch never comes off the field, in my opinion. I think he makes a hell of a lot of plays. And so that's what I would do. I would start to Corey Couch. I would hold Zach McCloud responsible for his play. Because here's the thing. Let's say I'm Sam Brooks, right? We're Sam Brooks. And I'm watching Zach McCloud play bad. But I'm a linebacker, and I'm not getting a lot of playing time. And I know Zach McCloud technically doesn't play the same position in Corey Flagg, blase. But if you're Corey Flagg and you're Sam Brooks and you're watching Zach McCloud perform poorly, and he's still getting a start, to me it's like, why even try? So my question is there people that you would interchange out? You know, for me, I would put to Corey Couch in for Ivy or Blaze. That's me. I would put Sam Brooks in and Corey Flagg in, because if I'm making mistakes with those guys, at least I'm making mistakes with younger guys who I can coach up. McLeod's been in the program. McLeod's been with Manny from his freshman year, and he's been with he sat out all last year or most of last year. I just don't. I mean, I'm willing to give up big plays with younger players that can get better rather than veterans who seem to stay stagnant. Do you agree with that? And who would you change out if you could?
I do agree with that. And I think, you know, early in the season when we were talking about the linebacker spot, I always like to think about Brooks. And I said, you know, I agree exactly what you said. I'd rather put Brooks out there, you know, because if Brooks is going to make a mistake, he'll make a mistake. He'll get to a spot fast if he makes that mistake. And also, I would believe that he can make up for it on the next play by getting a big tackle for loss, because he's that aggressive kind of mentality, whereas McLeod, he takes 2-3 seconds for him to even move off after the snap. So he's never going to make that big tackle for loss unless it's handed to him, like on a screenplay or something. So I absolutely agree with you. And if I were making changes, I would say between the three corners, Ivy, Blaze, Couch, because I've seen them all play really well at times, and all of them have made mistakes. I would probably run the two hot hands. Like, who of the three is playing the best today, this exact second, and ride those guys the rest of the game, you know? And I would tell them, like, look, it's not a popularity contest. It's not this. It's not that. It's who's playing the best will go on the field. Like, if you want to play, be better, you know? And then linebacker spot, I would really think about moving Carter up and, you know, put him at weak side. You know, at least move him up, get some speed out there, and see what you can do. I'm not as worried about safety, even with a guy like Ballin back there. Like, if it needs to be, it needs to be. Or you can move Keontre or Gill back there for spots. But, you know, I think you need to be better at linebacker, like today. So I'd run with Brooks in the middle. Flagg can go in there when he's ready to go, and try Carter up there too to see if he can't get speed. And if you have to put McLeod as a pass rusher or something, like a third down specialist, whatever. Just find a spot for him if you need to, but that's my linebacker.
All right, guys, we got Chris from Kane's Legacy and Kane's Insight on the line. Guys, I appreciate everybody in the chat right now. We will be doing a Q&A at the end of this. We got a couple more questions for Chris, and then we'll do some Q&As. So be thinking of questions to ask Chris, and we'll get you in on here very soon. Chris, I think we've touched a lot on the defense. Offensively, do we owe the wide receivers an apology? Because they made big plays tonight.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to, right? Like, this is what they should have been doing all season. The King has been putting them in good positions to make plays. They haven't been executing it. So, you know, I'm not going to apologize for holding someone to a higher standard than what they were reaching. And today, those guys started to hit on that potential, which is great. Harley, you know, came out a couple weeks ago and kind of called himself out and said, you know, I haven't been doing as much as I need to do. People were like, it's ridiculous how he would blah, 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 and say this and blah. I think he was also like really kind of pointing the finger at the whole room, but he didn't want to say it's my guys, and he wanted to put himself there too. And he showed up. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to call yourself out if you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You know, put the extra work in, put the time in, and go out there and make a play. So, I mean, I'm sure he's hitting real happy right now. I'm sure he's happy to know that he made good on that potential, and we're obviously very proud of him for reaching it. So I'm not worried about apologizing. I'm just glad they reached it.
And I agree with that 100 and 1,000%. The reason we were so, going crazy at the wide receivers is because we knew they could make these plays. We weren't asking them to be, Julio Jones, Antonio Brown. We were asking them to do what they did tonight. When you get a chance to make a play, make a play. And let me tell you, Mike Harley, I got to applaud him a little bit extra because even though Pope made the play, Pope has been dropping passes. Mike Harley, starting back all the way, the Pittsburgh game, he had a touchdown. Last game, he had 10 receptions. This game, he had a hell of a game. And I don't remember him dropping a lot of passes, if any. I could be wrong. You're looking at D. Wiggins. You're looking at Mark Pope. I can show you specific plays where they just legitimately drop the passes. So I will say, I agree with you. We don't owe him an apology. We expected this. But I do want to say kudos to Mike Harley because Mike Harley, he put a target on his back. When he said the receivers aren't working hard, he put a target on his back. And everybody was watching him, and he made big plays tonight. Can we talk about, what about Brevin Jordan? Brevin Jordan, he hits social media. He says he's not injury prone. He doesn't miss a lot of games. All week, the coaches say he's healthy. And one of the shows earlier this week, I said, I'll believe it when I see it. I said, if we get Brevin Jordan tonight, this game isn't close. Right before a game, no Brevin Jordan. So my question to you is, one, is Brevin Jordan, would you consider him injury prone? And two, just what do you think happens tonight if we have Brevin Jordan on the field?
I think it gives us a lot more freedom with what we do, like at the receiver position, because Mallory's pretty good when he lines up in the slot, but Jordan's pretty good when he lines up in the slot. So I think it gives you more weapons. And there was a stretch there early when we were looking for weapons when Pope did have a drop and Wiggins did have a drop that was hurting us. So it definitely opened up the offense a lot more. As far as his Jordan injury prone, I mean, he gets hurt a lot. He gets dinged up a lot and he misses time. I do think that, honestly, in my thought process, I kind of figured that he would have opted out at some point. I think if we would have lost one of these games recently, he might have called it a season and kind of waited and prepared for the draft. Because people might be like, oh, well, he can't go because he gets hurt so much. But, his skill set is so, ready-made for the NFL, what the NFL is nowadays, that he'll be fine. So I just hope that he comes back more in the season. I hope that we get another shot at Clemson, and he comes back and plays. But at the same exact time, I would not be stunned if at some point he does kind of pack it in and say, guys, I appreciate it, but, I got to go. So, and if it is, it is. It is what it is. I think Mallory's a very good replacement, and we're lucky to have him, a player of that caliber who could step in as a starter, because he himself is an NFL player that we have to utilize like we did tonight.
I agree with you, man. Big shout out to Will Mallory, man. Will Mallory played great tonight. And, just how I give De'Aaron King credit, I give Will Mallory credit. I give De'Aaron King credit for, and I love celebrating. You're talking to a guy who, one of the main reasons I became a Miami Hurricane fan is because they talk the talk and they walk the walk. But De'Aaron King, I didn't see a smile all night. Will Mallory, I didn't see a smile all night. Even when he caught a touchdown pass, I've been here before, I've been doing this. And I'm not saying every player has to be like this. And I actually like the players that get in people's faces and blah, 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 but they don't cost their team. But, man, Will Mallory, he just does his job. He's not out there tweeting. He's not out there saying this. He's not, it's got to be hard to be as talented as Will Mallory is, but be like the second fiddle. I think that's pretty tough, that when you talk about the Miami Hurricanes, he does get some credit. I'm not saying a lot of the credit, but when people talk about when they talk about Brevin Jordan, it's like, oh, Brevin Jordan. But then at times, it's human nature to be like, well, what about me? And Will Mallory just shows up and does his job. He's not perfect. There's some things I can think he improve on, but I do want to give him a shout out for showing up and making the most out of his opportunities. Guys, if you have any questions in the chat, go ahead and put them in the chat right now. If you got questions from Chris, from Kane's Legacy and Kane's Insight, put them in the chat right now. Questions and comments, let me know, and I'm going to ask Chris, and we're going to get to it. But while you put those questions in there, Chris, let me get your offensive MVP and defensive MVP.
Well, I mean, it's super easy to say King on the offensive side of the ball. You know, he's a man. He's started the drink tonight. You know, it's pretty easy. At the same time, like as often as we've kind of questioned things with the offensive line throughout the season, like their pass blocking tonight, like run blocking early on struggled a bit until King started actually moving the ball around a little bit. But for the most part, like they pass blocked really, really well. You know, so they deserve some credit because that was a critique that we've had. Like guys, Zion on the outside was strong, Gary Williams was strong, Ja'Kai, we've kind of been on him a little bit. You know, he was solid out there too. So I think those guys deserve credit on the offense. Obviously, like, you know, the man is King, but those guys deserve credit. On the defensive side, I mean, there's not that many guys who had like stellar games, but I think the best was probably Nesta Silvera in the middle. He's really like went way above and beyond my expectations this season. You know, I was kind of ready to write him off as a guy who was like a lot of talk, a lot of hype, but wasn't going to be what we needed him to be. And he's become something totally different than I ever expected. He's become like this sturdy, you know, strong interior presence who isn't going to make a ton of flash plays. Like I think Harrison Hunt made more like splash plays than tonight, but when Nesta does make a play, I think he had 3 tackles for loss. Like it's a big, big play. And he makes a lot of other plays that you don't really notice because he's pushing his guy into the backfield and another dude is making a play. Or he's taking up a double team and another dude is making a play. So if we had better linebackers who can get in the backfield and like take advantage of some of these gaps that he opens up, I think people would notice Nesta more. But Nesta's making himself a lot of money by playing the way he is because that skill set fits in a lot of NFL teams.
All right, and when you talked about Nesta Silvera, you made me think of a question I've got to ask you. You know, earlier in the year, you know, I talked about we had a discussion about Gregory Rousseau or J.J. Phillips, and I might ask you because I really don't remember what you said, but let me know if I'm wrong. Did you say J.J. Phillips was better than Gregory Rousseau, or he would do just as much as Gregory Rousseau?
I'll say exactly what I said because you're not far off from what I said.
Okay.
I said Phillips has the potential to go higher in the draft than Rousseau. The more he's played, like he hasn't quite like hit that peak that I expected him to hit. You know, after the first couple of games, I thought he was going to go on this crazy trajectory. He hasn't done that. But at the same time, like I do think, and I know that you know people are like, "Well, he doesn't get enough sacks, doesn't do this, doesn't do that." You know, the whole time through, like. He is like a left defensive end. He is your hold the line, you know, not going to get around me, edge playing guy who can play the opposite of a great pass rusher. I think he's played better than Roche has through the course of the season, but he hasn't reached that super premium level that Rousseau did. So that's been kind of disappointing. But overall, I think he's had a very good season. I think he's a very good player, not a great player.
Let me ask you this, and this is just a question that that I'm thinking of. Not trying to say either one of us was right or wrong, but you know, we watched Gregory Rousseau get moved inside, outside. Why do you think? Okay, I think I just kind of answered my question, but I'll let you answer it because I think I know what you're going to say. But why do you think Jalen Phillips doesn't get moved around like that?
I think part of it is like Rousseau was so like unique. He was like a unicorn basically, right? You know, he was the guy that had this crazy like natural strength that you could throw him inside and he could have the same level of effectiveness. I think big picture Rousseau is probably a player who, you know, will bulk up like Calais Campbell did and be a guy who could play 3-4 and he could play 4-3 and he could do pretty much whatever and then slide inside on pass like a Justin Tuck did. You know, from Notre Dame went to the Giants, like a guy like that. But I think Phillips is a guy who stays on the outside. maybe stands up if you need to, but for the most part is your like solid, strong, sturdy defensive end that you have opposite of a great pass rusher. So I don't think he's quite as versatile. I'd try him inside, but for the most part, he's going to stay out.
Okay, and I agree with that, but I was going to say this. I think I feel like our interior line is, with Hunt, Severa, Ford. When you have those three guys rotating, and normally they're creating pressure. I know tonight they didn't create as much pressure as they normally do. There's no need to.
Yeah, that's true too. And I'm thinking back to when we've had other guys like it, and I know people rag on Phillips because he's not getting sacks and all, but when we had Chad Thomas out there, and he was playing up in Joe Jack and Trent Harris and all those guys. Like the interior of the line was so valuable that Chad really didn't have to get a ton of sacks. Like his job was to hold the edge and let those interior guys really make plays. And it's taken until now for those interior guys to really kind of like step their game up. I think over the course of the rest of the season, Harrison Hunt is going to be a real serious player for this team. I think he's one of those guys like the next great Miami defensive tackle, even before LT56 makes his way in. But he's looking like he's going to be a real prime player for the Canes down the stretch.
All right, let's jump into the chat because they're asking some questions, and I'm just going to ask them to you. This first one comes from AR Walk 101. Do you believe the Canes have a chance at the conference championship run?
I think we could make it to the game. I'm not very impressed by Notre Dame personally. I think that Clemson's going to run them out pretty easily. And then the question is what happens like after that. I know Notre Dame has to lose the second game and we have to pretty much go straight up the rest of the way. But if Notre Dame loses that game, I don't see why we can't win out. Obviously, you probably play a game like today where it looks like we're not doing too well, but we could win all of these games. I think Clemson's going to probably drop the hammer on us again, unless Lawrence by that point decides he wants to opt out himself. But you never know with the young quarterback. But I would expect that we have a good shot at making it, but not a good shot at winning it.
Would Miami beat Clemson without Trevor Lawrence?
No, I don't think so. I think it would be the Etienne show, but it would be a much better chance. And the kid could be fantastic, but just to have a senior quarterback in there against the freshman, I would like our odds to at least get like one or two maybe big play turnovers and then have a shot. But I think they would ultimately have just too many dogs, too many weapons. They would be able to hold us down on offense.
All right, my boy J.E. Love says. Shout out to J.E. Love. He says, King for Heisman. And this is something I said on stream. I said, listen, there's probably not a player out there that means more to their team than De'Aaron King. I mean, I watched Clemson play without Trevor Lawrence. They struggled, but they won. I don't know how Miami would look without De'Aaron King. So I'll tell you, do you think De'Aaron King should be considered in the Heisman Trophy race as of right now for what you've seen so far?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's been like consistently elite, consistently excellent to get that kind of like nod. But if it was like MVP, if you want to give an MVP award out, sure, yeah, like he'd be in a runner for that. It's like the difference between like the NBA awards and NFL awards, like who is actually the most valuable player to their team. Like I don't think there's a guy more valuable to his team in the top 10, 11 conversation than De'Aaron King is to us. Like Clemson can win without Trevor Lawrence. Notre Dame can win without Ian Book. Florida could probably win without Trask if they needed to, but we know we can't win without King. So, but Heisman, it's not going to happen.
I mean, if we're looking at to this point, I'm saying De'Aaron King, looking at his stats here, what we got here, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 2 rushing touchdowns. Nate, who would be your 3 Heisman guys right now?
Probably Lawrence, Fields, and then maybe Wilson. from BYU, and he's having kind of like an outstanding season out of nowhere. I would say probably those guys.
Oh, goodness.
But for
They're
sure,
up
like, it's going to be
23-3 right
Lawrence,
now, too.
and maybe probably put Etienne in there, too, just kind of like throw him a bone for staying. But that's probably where I'd go.
Okay. And for anybody who pays attention to BYU, they're up 23-3 on Boise State, man. I've been getting this question a lot. Where's the guy that I want to give him credit? But is there any results on the mid-season poll Kane Legacy results that you guys ran? What information did you guys learn? My buddy Elliot sent that in.
Oh yeah, Elliot, we're all done. It's we posted it on Kane's Insight earlier this week, a couple of days ago. I want to say on Wednesday. It's if you go to our Twitter account, it's the pinned post right at the top. So just click on that article that's in the pinned post at the top of our Twitter page, and all the results are there. It was actually we got a lot of really cool information from it too. So thank you for looking forward to it, and you can read it right on there.
All right, guys, and I will put Chris's information and stuff in the description. Elliot says thank you. And Chris, when you just skimmed over those poll results and things like that, is there something that shocked you or that stood out that the fan base thought?
I think a lot of stuff was pretty in line with what we would expect from what we've seen through the course of the season. I think everyone was a little bit more tempered in their opinions than I think what you see on a game day. Like you see the most dramatic thought process is coming out. But when everyone had a chance to kind of sit down and think about it, I think people kind of calmed down a little. I think people were pretty optimistic about the cornerback position, where early in the season nobody would ever expect it. People were very negative about the linebacker spot, as people would expect. I think the overall optimism about the defense maybe got thrown off a little bit by what we saw today. But honestly, it was pretty along the lines of what I would expect. And I think Lashley getting a big grade on the offensive side, and D'Eriq King being obviously a great favorite was great. Maybe if there was one thing, a lot of fans want Van Dyke to be the guy that steps in if, God forbid, anything were to happen to D'Eriq King, which is a little bit surprising because you think Perry has some experience. But I guess people think that if he gets hurt, then you might as well run it with the young kid and see what he has before he gets to next season. All right.
That's crazy to me too. I haven't given up on Nkosi. I haven't given up on Nkosi, so I'm still running with the Nkosi train. I mean, I just got to see more from Van Dyke. From what I've heard behind the scenes, he's a leader. He does great things. He rallies the troops to practice more and all that type of stuff. But I've seen people act like Nkosi didn't come back against Florida State. People act like Nkosi hasn't had 3 different offensive coordinators. Anytime a player transfers, we always say, oh, he's afraid of competition, blah, blah, blah. But Nkosi doesn't get credit for staying in. It would have been easy for Nkosi to say, D'Eriq King's coming in, I'm leaving. But Nkosi didn't do that. I just want to give my little shout out for Nkosi.
Honestly, if I could predict the future, I would say that King stays for next year. Van Dyke, is the main backup next year and preps to get ready to start the year after. And then Perry transfers out because he'll probably get 2 seasons wherever he goes. He could transfer out and a really great place for him might be going down with Willie Taggart, starting out down there, and he doesn't have to move too far. He gets a chance to be the man at a smaller school with a little bit less expectations, but with his talent, he could step right in and be the man for a couple of years, and less pressure on him to be the superstar quarterback. And I think that could be a really nice fit for him if he decides to go play for Willie.
All right, yeah, Willie, they did just lose the quarterback commit. Deion Sanders' son decommitted and decided to go play for his dad.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this, man, because we got to talk about it. I don't see a lot of people discussing this, which, I mean, I've been doing the show, but Bubba Bolden didn't have a good night tonight, man. Poor pursuit angles, missed tackles. I haven't looked at the film, but, just watching the game, I didn't see a major impact in the game. What were your thoughts on Bubba Bolden?
Yeah, I thought he was kind of invisible at times, which is a shame. Gervin Hall had a couple plays where he could have made a big play but didn't. Amari Carter didn't, try to throw his helmet at anybody today, so that was, surprising. But he stayed in there the whole game. I do think I don't think they were really trying to. They were hitting that middle of the field so hard, like in that intermediate area, but getting the ball like over the heads of the linebackers, that you'd expect the safeties to have a bigger game. But really, with our defense and the way we play those safeties, like you're expecting a lot out of them, like to play at a really, really high level. And NC State basically came out and just challenged them the whole game and said, we think we're better than you in the middle of the field. And their random name tight end was kind of ripping off chunks from us. The running backs were breaking to the outside and getting big gaps, and our safeties take, like you said, 4 pursuit ankles. So, yeah, it wasn't a great game for Bubba. And after Clemson a couple, 3-4 weeks ago at this point, you kind of thought he was only going to go up, but not a great game for any of them. And I think that, a lot of that is Bubba, trying to do too much. That's one thing that he does do that would probably frustrate a lot of teams, that he tries to be the man every time he's out there. He tries to do these like Superman plays, and sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes you're not that fast, and you got to make the safer play. And I think sometimes too much he tries to bet on himself, and it doesn't work out.
All right, guys, man, that's gonna be all for us tonight. We got Chris from Canes Legacy. Chris, go ahead and tell the people what y'all got going on at Canes Legacy and Canes Insight, brother.
Well, I appreciate anybody following us, and on Twitter it's at Canes Legacy. Our big thing is to always kind of, connect with the history of the program and, bring it into modern day. We always, each week we talk about the game that's coming up and like some past instances of the game and past games that happened during the course of those days and, the past, 20, 30 years. Also every week on Canes Insight, we do a mailbag. So if you'd like to ask me questions on here, you can ask me questions at another place and feel free to do that. And we answer those on Canes Insight every week. So, that'd be great if you guys wanted to throw some questions at us for the course of the week. And of course, tomorrow we'll have our highlights, big plays up, and some good, some bad. There'll probably be a lot of bad to defense too. So we're no, masters of football knowledge, but, we'll show the plays to you guys so you guys can get an idea of what happened and what went right and what went wrong. So I appreciate anyone, supporting us there too.
All right, guys, and I'll make sure when I post, obviously this is the live stream, but when I post the individual videos, I will have Chris's links in the description, so it's easy for you to find them. It definitely, I would be greatly appreciated if you did check out his content, man, because he does come on here weekly, late at night, after the game, to do this instant reaction podcast with this man. So big shout out to Chris. And definitely, I know some of you guys have been checking him out. Continue to support his content because it really is good content. I don't bring anybody on the show unless they know what they're talking about. So I want to say, hey, Chris, I really do appreciate you. And guys, I appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight. I'll be putting out content all weekend. I got the weekend off. So I'll be doing that, be putting content on the channel. Check out the Patreon. Check out the Cane Gang. And I appreciate you guys.